My husband looked at me with cold eyes and said, "Get out. I just became a millionaire, and I don't need someone like you anymore." He pushed me toward the door and told me to sign divorce papers. I signed them without fighting. But when the lawyer opened the envelope and read what was inside, my husband fell on his knees right in front of me. Hello, friends. Welcome to JAMAL'S Stories. Before we start, please leave a comment and tell us where you are watching from today. We really want to know. We hope you love this amazing story. Maya opened her eyes when the phone alarm went off at 6 o'clock in the morning. Outside the window, everything was dark and quiet. Only a few lights from neighbor houses shined through the thin curtains. She moved slowly, trying not to wake Darnell, and slipped out from under the warm blanket. The floor felt ice cold under her feet. Their small apartment had 2 bedrooms, but the heater barely worked. Sometimes it made noise but gave no heat. In the bathroom, Maya looked at herself in the mirror. She was 31 years old, but her face looked much older. Big dark shadows sat under her eyes. Her skin looked tired. Her hair needed washing and fixing, but she had no time or money for the salon. She rubbed her face with both hands, splashed cold water on her cheeks, and got dressed for work. "Why are you moving around so early?" Darnell's voice came from the bedroom. Sounded annoyed. "I have to be at work by 8:30, Darnell," Maya said softly while pulling on an old brown sweater. "Go back to sleep." "How can I sleep when you keep making noise every morning?" he complained, turning his back to her. Maya pressed her lips together and said nothing. A long time ago, maybe 6 years back, when they first started living together, Darnell used to wake up with her. He would make her breakfast, hug her, and tell her she was beautiful. He would kiss her goodbye and say sweet things. But now, everything she did seemed to bother him. In the kitchen, Maya made quick coffee and ate one piece of bread with jam while standing near the counter. She never had time to sit and eat a real breakfast. By 7:15, she was already walking out the door to catch the city bus. She worked at a small medical office where she answered phones and helped patients check in. The job was boring and hard. People called all day long. Some were angry. Some were confused. The pay was not much, only about $2,400 every month. But it was steady money, and right now it was the only money coming into their home. Darnell worked on what he called his business dreams. For 4 years now, he kept trying to start companies. First, he tried selling vitamins online. Then he tried being a life coach. Then he tried fixing computers for people. Nothing ever worked out. All the money Maya tried to save for vacations or new furniture disappeared into his next idea. The most money he ever made was maybe $400 in 1 month. And that didn't happen every month. "I'm building our future," he would say whenever Maya gently asked if he could get a regular job, even just for a little while. "You don't understand business, Maya. You have to spend money to make money. Look at all the rich people. They took risks." And Maya stayed quiet and kept working. She got a second job in the evenings doing computer work from home. After the medical office closed, she would come home and sit at the computer until midnight, typing numbers and fixing records for other businesses. This extra work gave her another $1,200 or sometimes $1,800 each month, depending on how much work came in. She used that money to pay rent, electricity, internet, buy food, and give Darnell money for his next big plan. The bus came late that morning, and Maya almost missed the start of her shift. The whole day was crazy. Phones rang without stopping. Patients were upset. Doctors were demanding. By lunchtime, her head hurt badly, but she couldn't go home. After work, she had to stop at the grocery store to buy food for dinner. Then she had to come home and work on the computer because she had a big project due the next day. She got home around 8:30 at night. Her arms hurt from carrying heavy grocery bags. Her feet were sore from standing all day. Darnell was sitting on the couch with his laptop, staring at the screen. In the kitchen, dirty dishes from his lunch were piled up in the sink. Crumbs covered the table. An empty soda can and torn chip bag sat next to the crumbs. Maya quietly took off her jacket, walked into the kitchen, and started washing the dishes. "Maya, you should rest first," Darnell said without looking away from his screen. You always do too much. If I don't wash them, who will? She said quietly while scrubbing a plate. Come on, you can wash them later. The house isn't going to fall down tonight. Maya didn't answer. There was no point. They used to cook together, clean together, plan their weekends together. He used to help her organize the closet and paint the walls. Now she felt like a maid in her own home. She finished the dishes, wiped the table, put the groceries away, heated up leftover soup for herself, and sat down to eat. Darnell came into the kitchen, poured water into a cup, grabbed a banana, and went back to the couch. Darnell, can we go somewhere this Sunday? Maya asked carefully, finishing her soup. Maybe just walk in the park or by the river. We haven't gone out together in so long. Maybe 3 months now. Maya, I'm focused on business right now, he said, waving his hand at her without looking up. I don't have time for walks. Don't you understand? I'm at a really important point. Jerome found someone who wants to invest money in our project. I need to prepare everything, make presentations, write plans. And you're talking about walks. Maya went silent. Important point. She had heard those words 100 times in the last 4 years. The important point never came. Just another investor, another project, another set of promises that never happened. She finished her soup, washed her bowl, and sat down at the computer. She had to finish work for 2 clients before morning. She sat at the desk in the corner of their small bedroom, turned on the lamp, and stared at numbers on the screen. Through the wall, the television was loud. Darnell had turned on a basketball game. Every few minutes, he would yell something at the TV, shouting about the players. This was how her days went. Every single day, every week, every month. Work, home, work, home. She couldn't remember the last time she bought something new for herself. Her pants had holes in them. Her shoes were falling apart. The bottom was coming off, and her socks got wet when it rained. But there was no money for new shoes or a winter coat. Darnell had asked for $800 last month for equipment for his latest idea, and she couldn't say no. And Maya noticed how Darnell had changed toward her. He started looking at her like she was a problem, like she was the reason he wasn't successful. You should go to the gym, he said one night while she was changing into her pajamas. You really stopped taking care of yourself. Look at you. Maya froze, holding her t-shirt in her hands. She stood there in her old bra and sweatpants, staring at him, not believing what she heard. Darnell, I'm just tired, she said quietly. I don't have time for the gym. I work from 6:30 in the morning until midnight. Excuses, he said, scrolling through his phone. Everyone finds time if they really want to. Look at Simone, Jerome's girlfriend. She stays fit. Hair done, nails done. Always looks good. And you, well, you know what I mean. He didn't finish the sentence, but Maya understood exactly what he meant. She got into bed, turned toward the wall, and squeezed her hands into fists under the covers. Tears tried to come, but she pushed them back. She wasn't going to cry. She was just tired. That's all. Tomorrow was another day. More work, more problems. Crying wouldn't change anything. A week later, the same thing happened. They were in the kitchen. Maya was cooking dinner, frying chicken and boiling rice. Darnell was looking at something on his tablet. You know, Maya, real wives help their husbands succeed, he said suddenly. Look at Marcus's wife. She doesn't work at all. She stays home, takes care of the house, and he can focus on business. That's why Marcus has his own company making real money. But Marcus makes money, Maya said, tired, flipping the chicken. What would we live on if I didn't work? See, that's exactly the problem, Darnell said, getting louder. I have to think about bills, about you being tired, about you being stressed. I can't focus on my work. If you made better money, I could focus on growing my business. But instead, we're always broke. Always worrying about money. How can I think big when you're worried about every dollar? Maya turned off the stove. The chicken was done. She put it on a plate without saying anything and set it on the table. Darnell took a piece and bit into it. Too salty, he said. She tasted it. The salt was fine. He was just looking for something to complain about because he was angry. Because he blamed her for his failures. Because she was the easiest person to blame. Winter turned into spring. Maya kept working 2 jobs, kept carrying everything on her shoulders. Darnell grew colder and meaner. Sometimes he didn't come home at night. He said he was staying at Jerome's place to work on business plans until late, so it was easier to just sleep there. Maya didn't ask questions. She was scared to hear the truth. Scared to find out that maybe there was another woman. That maybe he only stayed with her because she gave him a free place to live, hot food and clean clothes. And then something happened that changed everything. It was a normal Wednesday evening in June. Maya had just come home from work. She put a pot of pasta on the stove and started cutting tomatoes for sauce. Darnell was sitting in his usual spot on the couch, but this time he wasn't looking at his laptop. He was on the phone. He was talking quietly, but his voice sounded excited. "Yeah, I heard," he said. "Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow." "What time?" 10:30. "'Kay, I'll be there. Thanks for calling." He hung up and sat still for a few seconds, staring at nothing. Then he jumped up fast and started walking around the room, rubbing his hands together. "What happened?" Maya asked, looking out from the kitchen with a knife in her hand. Darnell turned around. A strange smile was on his face. Not a sad smile. Not a happy smile. A greedy smile. "Uncle Raymond died," he said. Maya's heart jumped. The knife almost fell from her hand. Darnell's Uncle Raymond was very old. He was maybe 85 years old. They had only seen him 1 or 2 times in all the years they were together. The old man lived in Detroit, about 4 hours away by car. He didn't talk much to family members. But still death. "Darnell, I'm so sorry," Maya started, wiping her hands on a towel and walking closer. "How did it happen? Was he sick?" "Sorry." Darnell laughed in a weird way. There was no sadness in that laugh. "Yeah, sure. Sad. He was 85. But that's not the important thing." The lawyer called. "Uncle Raymond left a will, and my name is in it." Maya blinked, not understanding what he meant at first. "A will?" "Yes," Darnell said, closing his fists tight. His eyes were shining. "He left an inheritance. That means there's something there. He definitely had a house. I remember a big house with 4 bedrooms. Maybe other things too. Maybe land. Maybe money in the bank. I'm going to the lawyer tomorrow to find out everything." He started walking around the room, rubbing his hands together like someone who just won the lottery. Finally something good happens to me. You understand, Maya? This is fate. This is a sign from God. I told you everything would work out for me. We just had to wait. Maya stood there watching him. Something inside her heart felt cold and painful. This was how he reacted to his uncle's death. Not with sadness, not with tears, but with joy about money. His own family member had just died, and he was celebrating. "Maybe we should plan the funeral first," she said gently. "Send him off the right way." "Aunt Gloria will handle that," Darnell said, waving his hand. She lived near him in Detroit. They talked all the time. "Let her handle it. I need to handle the inheritance." The lawyer said the will reading is tomorrow at 10:30. I need to be there. He was excited all evening. He couldn't sit still. He kept pacing from one corner to another, calling friends, telling everyone the news. He told everyone the same thing. Uncle Raymond died. Left a will. I'm about to be rich. The pasta on the stove started burning. The water dried up and smoke filled the kitchen. Maya turned off the gas, threw everything in the trash and went to the bedroom. She didn't want dinner. Her throat felt tight, and her chest felt heavy and empty. That night she couldn't sleep for a long time. She lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Darnell in the next room, talking excitedly on the phone with another friend. She thought about how everything had changed. When she fell in love with him 6 years ago, he was different. Kind, caring, sweet. They met at a friend's cookout, and he seemed so real, so honest. They dated for a year, and it was the happiest year of her life. He brought her flowers for no reason. He took her to movies. He made her breakfast. They dreamed together about a family, about kids, about a house they would buy. And then they moved in together and something broke. First it was small things. Then bigger things. He became cold. She became quiet. He became demanding. She became obedient. And now, 6 years later, she lay in the dark, realizing she didn't know who this person was anymore. For the next 2 days, Darnell was jumpy and nervous. He kept using his calculator, looking at house prices in Detroit online, checking how much a 4-bedroom house might be worth. He made plans out loud. I'm finally going to buy a real car. Not this old bucket. I'll open a real office downtown. We'll go on vacation. No, better yet, we'll go to Dubai. I always wanted to see Dubai. Darnell, don't count on things before you see them, Maya tried to say at dinner. You don't even know what's in the will yet. I know what's going to be in it, he interrupted, waving his fork. I'm the only nephew. Uncle Raymond has no other close family. Aunt Gloria is his wife's sister. Not even real blood. That means everything goes to me. It's only logical. He drank some tea and looked at her with a strange look, the kind of look you give something you're deciding whether to keep or throw away. You know, Maya, maybe it's time you thought about how you look, he said suddenly. When I get this money, I'll need a wife who looks the part. Look at you. You dress like you shop at the thrift store. Hair's not done. No nails. I'd be embarrassed to take you anywhere nice. Maya felt her face get hot. Her hands started shaking. She put her cup on the table, scared she might drop it. I dress like this because we don't have enough money, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I put every dollar toward bills and your projects. See, there you go again, Darnell said, making a face. Always making me feel guilty. It's not my fault you don't know how to save money. Real women figure out how to look good and still pay the bills. Maya opened her mouth to say something, but the words got stuck. Darnell had already gotten up from the table and walked out of the kitchen. He didn't even take his plate to the sink. She sat there alone, staring at her half-finished tea and leftover food, feeling something inside her finally break for good. She walked to the mirror in the hallway and looked at herself for a long time. She really didn't look good. An old sweater with fuzz balls on it. Faded jeans she'd worn for 3 years. Messy hair that needed fixing. A tired face with dark circles under her eyes. But was that her fault? She was working 2 jobs so he could play businessman. She said no to everything for herself so they could survive. Bought the cheapest food, saved every penny. And this was how he thanked her. Telling her he was ashamed of her. That she didn't look good enough for him. Maya slowly walked back to the kitchen and sat at the table. Her hands were still shaking. She poured water into a glass and took a few sips, trying to calm down. She needed to stay calm. Maybe it was just stress before the inheritance. Maybe when things settled down, when the excitement passed, Darnell would go back to being nice. Maybe things could still be fixed. But deep down, in the most hidden part of her heart, she already knew the truth. Nothing was coming back. The Darnell she fell in love with 6 years ago was gone. And maybe he never really existed at all. The morning started with Darnell walking around the apartment like a trapped animal. He woke up before Maya, which was strange. Usually, he slept until 10 or even 11. But today, at 7 o'clock in the morning, he was already standing in front of the mirror, brushing his hair and looking at his shirt. Does this look okay? He asked when Maya came out of the bedroom. Should I wear a tie? No, that's too much. It's not a job interview. But it is an important meeting. Maybe a tie after all. Maya looked at him. He was wearing his best shirt, a light blue one they bought 2 years ago for a wedding. His pants were nice too, black and clean. He had polished his dress shoes until they shined. It's fine, she said quietly. You look good. Of course I look good, he said, turning side to side in front of the mirror. Today is a big day. Today I find out how much I'm getting. He didn't eat breakfast. Just drank coffee too fast and burned his tongue. He was nervous, even though he tried to hide it. He kept looking at his watch, checking his phone, then looking at his watch again. What time do you need to leave? Maya asked, pouring herself tea. Meeting's at 10:30, but I'm leaving early to make sure I'm not late. Probably around 9:15. Just in case there's traffic. Do you want me to come with you? She asked carefully. For support. Darnell spun around and looked at her like she had said something crazy. For what? He snapped. This is family business. You have nothing to do with it. Maya sipped her tea, feeling the hot liquid burn her throat. Family business. That meant she wasn't family, even though they had lived together for 6 years. Okay, was all she said. Yeah, okay. Aunt Gloria is going to be there with all her church talk. She always brings down the mood. I don't need extra stress. He checked the mirror one more time, fixed his collar and grabbed his jacket. I'm leaving. I'll be back when I'm back. Might need to stay late to go over paperwork with the lawyer. And he left without even saying goodbye. The door slammed, and Maya was left alone in the empty apartment. She finished her cold tea, washed the cup, and got ready for work. The day was going to be long. At the medical office, time moved slow. Maya answered calls without thinking, checked patients in, but her mind was far away. She kept thinking about what was happening at the lawyer's office. What would happen next? How would their lives change if Darnell really got a big inheritance? Would he become kind and loving again? Or would he finally turn into the mean man she had been seeing lately? During her lunch break, she tried to call him, but he didn't answer. She sent a text. How's it going? It showed he read it, but he didn't reply. She got home around 7 o'clock. Darnell wasn't there. The apartment was silent and empty. Maya heated up leftover soup, ate it, washed the dishes, then sat at the computer. Work didn't stop. She had to finish a report, but she couldn't focus. She kept listening for sounds in the hallway, waiting for the door to open. Darnell didn't come home until 9 o'clock. Maya heard the lock click and heard him walk in. She got up from the computer and went out to meet him. Well? She asked, trying to read something on his face. Darnell stood in the doorway. A strange smile was on his lips. Not joyful, not happy, but hungry. Everything is perfect, he said, taking off his jacket. Even better than I thought. And Maya took a step closer. What happened? A house, Darnell said, walking into the living room and dropping onto the couch. 4 bedrooms, 1,400 square feet in a nice neighborhood in Detroit. A rental property in the suburbs. Bank account. Stocks in some company Uncle Raymond bought a long time ago. The lawyer said altogether it's about $1.8 million. Maybe more. They need to get someone to count everything properly. Maya sat on the edge of the chair. $1.8 million. That was huge money. The kind she never even imagined. Oh my God, she breathed. That's a fortune. Exactly, Darnell said, finishing her sentence. I'm rich now, Maya. Finally. That's it. No more living in this dump. No more counting pennies. I'm buying a luxury condo. A Mercedes. I'm starting the business I never had money for. Everything is changing. He was saying I. Not we. Maya noticed but stayed quiet. When can you get everything finalized? She asked. Lawyer said a week or 2. Need to gather paperwork, check the property values. But those are just formalities. The main thing is the money is mine. He got up from the couch and walked to the window. He stood there looking at the evening city, at the lights from all the buildings. Then he turned and looked at Maya with a long, cold stare. You know, Maya, I have a lot to think about tonight, he said suddenly. His voice had a cold edge to it. So I'm going to go to Jerome's, hang out with him, talk things over. I'll be late. Don't wait up. But Darnell. That's it. I'm gone. And he left, slamming the door again. Maya stayed sitting in the chair, staring at the empty space where her husband had just stood. And inside her, a cold, sticky feeling of fear started to grow. For the next 2 days, Darnell barely came home. He came in late at night when Maya was already asleep. He left early in the morning. They barely spoke. He was lost in his thoughts, in his plans. And it seemed like there was no room for her in those plans. And then the thing she least expected happened. It was Sunday, around 11 o'clock in the morning. Maya was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, reading news on her phone. Darnell was home, but he had been locked in the bedroom since morning, doing something on the computer. Suddenly he came out. His face looked serious and determined. "Maya, we need to talk," he said. His tone made Maya go cold inside. "About what?" she asked, slowly putting down her phone. Darnell walked into the kitchen, got a glass from the cabinet, poured water, drank it all at once, then turned to her and said, "I've been thinking about a lot of things these past few days. And I realized something. You and me, we're stuck. We've been stuck for years, and I don't want to live like that anymore." "What do you mean?" Maya stood up from the table. Her heart was beating fast. "I mean, I need to move forward. Start a new life. And you're holding me back, Maya. You're dragging me down." "Darnell, what are you saying?" Her voice shook. "I'm saying we need to break up. I want a divorce." The words hung in the air. Maya couldn't believe she heard them. "Divorce? He wants a divorce? Right when he got the money. Are you serious?" she squeezed out. "Dead serious," Darnell answered coldly. "I've thought it all through. It's the best decision for both of us. You'll find someone who fits you better, and I'll start my new life. We've been together for 6 years, Maya whispered. Her legs felt weak. 6 years, Darnell. I supported you all this time. I worked 2 jobs so you could try your projects. And I'm grateful for that," he interrupted without feeling. "Really? But being grateful isn't the same as being in love. And love left a long time ago. Let's be honest." "How can you say that?" "I'm saying the truth. We got comfortable with each other, but that doesn't mean we have to stay together forever. People changed. And I need something different now." Maya sank back onto the chair. Her legs wouldn't hold her. There was fog in her head and pain in her chest so sharp she thought her heart would explode. "You waited until you got the money," she said quietly, staring at the floor. "That's why you didn't say anything before. You waited." Darnell stayed silent. And that silence was louder than any words. "I packed your things," he said finally. "They're in the hallway. Suitcase and 2 bags. Everything's there. Clothes, shoes, books. You can get the rest later whenever you want." Maya raised her head and looked at him. He stood with his arms crossed, looking down at her. And in that look there was no regret. No guilt. Only cold, calm indifference. "You're kicking me out?" she asked. Her voice sounded broken and strange. "Right now. The sooner the better," he answered. "No need to drag out goodbyes. It just makes things harder." She stood up on shaking legs and walked slowly to the hallway. Sure enough, there was her suitcase and 2 bags. He had actually packed her things. While she was at work yesterday, he had gone through her stuff, folded her clothes, prepared to throw her out. "I prepared the divorce papers," Darnell said, following her into the hall. He picked up some papers from the side table and handed them to her. "It's simple. No property claims. Mutual agreement. You just need to sign. I'll file it at the courthouse myself. In a month it'll be done." Maya took the papers with shaking hands. Her eyes looked at the lines, but she couldn't focus. Couldn't read. The letters were blurry. "I don't need you anymore," Darnell said. Mocking notes crept into his voice. "I'm rich now. You understand. I'm going to have a new life. Beautiful. Successful. And you stay in your boring, broke life. That's where you belong." He laughed, looking at her pale face. "Did you really think I was going to stay with you? Seriously? You thought I'd want to bring you to the top with me? Look at yourself. You're plain, Maya. You're a nobody. And you'll never be the kind of woman a successful man needs." Every word was like a punch. Maya stood and listened as the man she loved, the man she gave 6 years of her life to, trampled her, crushed her, destroyed her. And as for your so-called sacrifices, Darnell continued, making air quotes with his fingers, that was your choice. Nobody forced you to work 2 jobs. You decided that. So don't come at me with complaints now. Maya looked at him for a long moment. And suddenly, something inside her snapped. The pain didn't go away, but something else came over it. Cold, hard dignity. Where do I sign? She asked in a steady voice. Darnell looked confused for a moment. He clearly expected tears, begging, screaming. But Maya stood calmly, back straight, looking at him with an empty gaze. Right here, he said, pointing to a line at the bottom of the page. And here on the second page. Maya took the pen he offered and with a steady hand signed her name. Once. 6 years of life crossed out with 2 signatures. Good, Darnell said, taking the papers back. Perfect. Quick and no drama. I always knew you were smart. He folded the papers, put them in a folder, then turned to the door and opened it wide. Well, have a nice life, he said with a smirk. Or as they say, good luck finding another sucker to take care of you. Maya silently picked up the suitcase and one bag. They were heavy, but she didn't flinch. She stepped over the threshold, then came back for the second bag. Darnell stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame, watching her with that nasty, self-satisfied smile. You know what, Maya? He said when she grabbed the second bag. I almost feel sorry for you. You're a decent person. Really. Just not my level. You know what I mean. I'm playing in a different league now. Maya stopped at the threshold, turned her head, and looked at him. She looked at this man she once loved for the last time and realized there was nothing left. No love. Not even hate. Just emptiness. Goodbye, Darnell, she said quietly and firmly. And she walked out without looking back. Behind her, the door slammed, and she heard his laugh. A nasty, cruel laugh. He was laughing at her back, enjoying his victory. Maya walked down the stairs carrying the heavy bags and stepped out onto the street. It was a bright summer day. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Life was going on no matter what. And she stood in the middle of this life with 2 bags and a suitcase. Homeless, husbandless, with a torn heart, but with her head held high. She took out her phone and called her best friend, Keisha. Keisha, it's me, she said when her friend answered. Can I come over? I need a place to stay for a few days. I left Darnell. Her voice finally cracked on the last words, but she pulled herself together. Now was not the time to fall apart. Later. Later there would be tears. Later there would be pain. Right now she just needed to get to Keisha's. To a safe place where she could breathe and figure out what to do next. Girl, of course. Come over right now. Keisha's worried voice came through the phone. What happened? I'll tell you when I get there. I'm on my way. Maya called a ride, put her bags in the trunk, and sat in the back seat. And when the car started moving, when the familiar streets began to pass by outside the window, she allowed herself to close her eyes. Only then, in the darkness behind closed lids, did the first tears fall. Keisha met her at the door of her small apartment with hot tea and a warm hug. She didn't ask questions right away. Just helped carry the bags in, sat her on the couch, and put a mug in her hands. Drink. Tell me later, she said, sitting next to her. Maya told her everything. About the inheritance. About the last few months. About how Darnell kicked her out today, laughing at her back. She spoke quietly without tears, because the tears had dried up in the car. Only a hollow emptiness was left inside. What a dog, Keisha hissed when Maya finished. What an absolute snake. Maya, I always felt something was off with him. But you loved him, so I kept quiet. I did love him, Maya said quietly. But I guess that wasn't enough. The first few days she just existed. She slept on Keisha's pull-out couch. Went to work. Came back. Did something. Went back to sleep. Moving through life like a robot without thoughts. Keisha tried to get her to talk, to distract her. But Maya just shook her head and stayed in her own world. Her phone was silent. Darnell didn't call. Didn't text. Like she never existed in his life. And then, on the fourth day, an unknown number called. Maya Vance. A man's voice asked when she answered. She had taken his last name. Yes, this is she. This is the Sterling and Associates law firm. My name is Attorney Marcus Webb. I represent the estate of the late Raymond Vance. I need to meet with you regarding the inheritance matter. Maya was confused. But I'm not a relative, she said. That's my ex-husband's uncle. We're divorced. Well, the paperwork is being processed. That is precisely why I need to meet with you urgently. The man's voice sounded serious. It's very important. Can you come in today, maybe around 2 o'clock? Maya looked at her watch. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. She was getting ready for work. I can come at 5:30 after work, she said. Perfect. We'll expect you at 5:30. Do you know the address? 1500 West Lake Street, Suite 402. Okay, I'll be there. All day Maya thought about this call. Why did she need to go to the lawyer? What could possibly involve her in Darnell's uncle's inheritance? She barely knew the old man, saw him only once or twice. At 5:45 she stood in front of the office door. She hesitated, took a deep breath and walked in. In the waiting area, a young woman in a business suit sat at a desk. Good evening. I'm Maya Vance. I was called. Go right in. They're waiting for you. The woman pointed at the office door. Maya walked in. At a large desk sat a man in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. And on a chair by the wall sat an older woman in a black dress and a small hat. Maya recognized her. It was Aunt Gloria, the woman Darnell had mentioned. And standing next to her was Darnell himself. He looked pale. His eyes kept moving between the lawyer and Maya. When she entered, he jumped a little like he wanted to say something but stayed quiet. Miss Vance, please sit down, the lawyer said, pointing to the chair across from him. She sat down, holding her purse tight on her lap. Her heart was beating in her throat. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm handling the estate of Raymond Vance, the lawyer began. I needed to find you urgently because a complicated situation has come up. He opened a folder on the desk and took out several sheets of paper. The fact is, the deceased's will had a special condition. I told the heir about it in general terms at our first meeting, but now I need to read it in full with all interested parties present. Darnell squeezed his fists tight. Maya saw it from the corner of her eye but tried to look only at the lawyer. I will read you the full text of the inheritance clause, continued Attorney Webb, putting on his glasses. Quote, all my property, including the house at 42 Maple Grove Avenue, the rental property in Oak Park, funds in my bank accounts, and the investment portfolio, I leave to my nephew Darnell Marcus Vance. However, he can receive this inheritance only if he meets the following condition. At the time of claiming the inheritance, Darnell Vance must be in a legal marriage with his current wife Maya Vance, for a period of no less than 1 year from the moment of my death. The lawyer paused and looked over his glasses at Darnell. Furthermore, if the marriage ends before the 1-year period is complete, or if at the time of my death Darnell Vance is not married to Maya Vance, all the property shall go in full to Maya Vance as a person who has shown true character and strength. Silence filled the office. Maya didn't understand right away what she had heard. The words came slowly like through thick water. The inheritance goes to her if the marriage ends. And they had already signed the divorce papers. That's impossible, Darnell squeezed out, stepping toward the desk. That can't be right. Uncle Raymond couldn't write that. I'm his nephew. His only nephew. The will was written 3 years ago, the lawyer replied calmly. Properly notarized. Signed with witnesses present. It is completely legal. But why? Darnell grabbed his head. Why would he do that? Aunt Gloria stood up slowly from her chair and looked at Darnell with sad eyes. Because Raymond saw right through you, she said quietly but firmly. 3 years ago, when he came to visit you in Chicago for the last time, he stayed with you for a few days. Remember? Darnell was silent. His face turned white. He saw how you treated Maya, the old woman continued. How you ordered her around. How you used her. She worked 2 jobs while you sat on the couch with your dreams. He saw that she was a good woman and you were selfish and cruel. And that's when he decided to change the will. The lawyer picked up. He came to my office. He said he wanted to protect a good person. That if you stayed married for at least a year after his death, it meant you two really cared about each other, and the inheritance would go to you. But if you divorced, it meant Maya deserved to be rewarded for all the years she suffered in your relationship. Darnell collapsed into a chair, covering his face with his hands. When did you file for divorce? The lawyer asked, looking through papers. I filed the application 3 days ago, Darnell answered in a hollow voice. Fast-track process. I paid extra to get it done quick. And the divorce was finalized yesterday. The lawyer nodded. Yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Here's the stamp in the system. So the condition of the will has been broken. The marriage ended earlier than 1 year after the testator's death. Therefore, according to the will, all property goes to Maya Vance. Maya sat frozen. Her head was spinning. This was impossible. This couldn't be real. $1.8 million. The house. The rental property. All of it was hers now. Not Darnell's, who threw her out laughing. Hers. No, Darnell said hoarsely, jumping up. No, that's mine. That's my inheritance. I'm the nephew. I have the right. You had the right, the lawyer corrected. Until the moment you divorced your wife. Now the right has passed to her. This is the will of the deceased, and it's being carried out according to the law. Darnell spun around to face Maya. His eyes burned with fear and anger. Maya, he breathed, taking a step toward her. Maya, listen. This is all a mistake. A big mistake. I didn't mean what I said back then. I was just stressed, because of the whole inheritance thing. I didn't really think that. Maya watched him silently. We can fix everything, he continued, dropping to his knees right in front of her, right in the middle of the office. We can get married again. The divorce only happened yesterday. We can cancel it, right? He turned to the lawyer. We can file something, take back the divorce. You cannot take back the divorce, the lawyer answered firmly. But you can enter into a new marriage. However, that would not be the marriage referred to in the will. The condition of continuous marriage has been broken. Then we'll get married again anyway. Darnell grabbed Maya's hands. His palms were wet and sticky. You hear me, Maya? We'll get married. Everything will be like before. Even better. Change. I swear I'll be different. I'll love you. Take care of you. Maya silently pulled her hands away. Maya, please, his voice shook. Don't do this. Don't destroy my life. Uncle Raymond wanted us to be together. See, he wanted to test us and we can still pass the test. We just didn't know about it. You failed the test, Maya said quietly, looking him in the eye. You kicked me out of the house. You laughed at me. You said I was plain and not good enough for you. I didn't mean it, he cried out. I was stupid. Forgive me. I'm on my knees begging you. Forgive me. Maya stood up. Darnell stayed on his knees, looking up at her. There was panic in his eyes. Fear. But not shame. No real regret for what he had done. Only fear of losing the money. Get up, Darnell, she said calmly. Don't embarrass yourself. I'll do anything. He grabbed the bottom of her shirt. Anything you say. We'll get married and I'll give you half the inheritance. No more than half. You can have 60%, 70%. Maya, please. She gently removed his hands and stepped back. I don't want to marry you, she said quietly but firmly. Not for all the money in the world. No, Darnell. You killed everything that was between us. You killed it with your words, with your laughter when you threw me out. And I don't want to go back to that life. Not ever. She turned to the lawyer. What do I need to do to claim the inheritance? Attorney Webb nodded with respect. You'll need to come in a few times, sign documents, complete the certificate of inheritance rights. I'll explain everything. We can start right now if you wish. I wish, said Maya. Maya, wait. Darnell jumped to his feet. You can't just take everything. It's mine. My inheritance. Also, I'll find a way to fight the will. You can try, said the lawyer. But the will is written properly. All rules were followed. The deceased was of sound mind and body, confirmed by medical records. The court will not take your side. I won't leave it like this, shouted Darnell. I'll get justice. Justice has already been served, said Aunt Gloria quietly, walking up to Maya. She took her hand and squeezed it. Raymond was a wise man. He knew what he was doing. My dear, I'm glad it turned out this way. You're a good person, and you deserve this inheritance more than anyone. Tears filled Maya's eyes for the first time in days. Not from pain but from gratitude, from relief. Thank you, she whispered. Darnell stood in the middle of the office, pale, with dead eyes. Everything had collapsed in a single second. $1.8 million. The new life. All his plans. Everything turned to dust. And he only had himself to blame. You may go, Mr. Vance, the lawyer said. Your presence is no longer needed. Miss Vance will stay. We need to discuss details. Darnell opened his mouth, but no words came out. He stood for a few more seconds, then turned around and walked out of the office. The door closed behind him with a quiet click. Maya let out a long breath. Only now did she realize she hadn't been breathing this whole time. Her legs felt weak, and she sank back into the chair. Are you okay? The lawyer asked with concern. Water? No, thank you. It's just, this is all so unexpected. I understand. But believe me, Raymond made the right choice. He talked a lot about you when he was writing the will. He said you were the only person in his nephew's life worthy of respect. Maya nodded, not knowing what to say. Aunt Gloria sat next to her and put an arm around her shoulders. Hold on, baby, she whispered. The worst is over. Now a new life begins. Yes, thought Maya. New life. Without Darnell. Without being used. Without counting every penny. With $1.8 million she couldn't even imagine. Felt like a dream. Scary and beautiful at the same time. Maya left the law office when the sun was setting. In her hands was a folder with documents. In her head a fog. But in her chest, a strange light feeling, like she was floating above the ground. Everything that happened seemed unreal, like someone else had received this inheritance and she was just watching from far away. She took out her phone and called Keisha. Keisha, you won't believe it, she said when her friend answered. I became the heir. Everything went to me. $1.8 million. Silence on the other end. Then a scream. What? Maya, are you serious? How? Maya explained as she walked to the bus stop. About the will. About the condition. About how Darnell stood on his knees and begged her to come back. She spoke and didn't believe her own words. That is simply amazing, Keisha breathed. Maya, do you understand what this means? You're free. You're rich. You can do whatever you want. I haven't fully realized it yet, admitted Maya, getting on the bus. It's like a dream. The following days flew by fast. Trips to the lawyer. Signing documents. Meetings with people who check property values. Opening bank accounts. Aunt Gloria helped with everything, explained what was what, supported her. It turned out she knew about Raymond's plans from the very beginning. He told me when he was writing the will, the old woman said, sitting with Maya in a cafe after another visit to the lawyer. He said, Gloria, I saw how that boy treats his wife. He's selfish and mean. If he doesn't change in a year, let her at least get something for all those years. Raymond was a fair man. He couldn't stand to see people being treated badly. Maya listened and felt deep gratitude toward the old man she barely knew. He protected her even after death. Gave her a chance to start over. But Darnell didn't give up. He called every day. First begging. Then threatening. Then begging again. He came to Keisha's building, waited outside her workplace. Maya didn't talk to him. Walk past him. But he would run after her, grab her arm. Maya, you can't do this to me, he shouted in the middle of the street, not caring who heard. We were together for 6 years. 6 years. Do they mean nothing? Did they mean nothing to you? Maya answered calmly, pulling her arm free. You proved that yourself when you kicked me out. I explained. I wasn't myself. Forgive me. Give me one more chance. But she walked past again and again. And each time it became easier. The pain got duller, went away, turned into nothing. One evening he showed up at Keisha's door. Maya opened it and saw him looking terrible. Wrinkled shirt. Red eyes. He stood with a handful of wilted flowers in his hands. I've been sleeping in my car every night, he said in a rough voice. Waiting for you, Maya. Please. I can't live without you. Come back. We'll get married. I'll give you all the inheritance if you want. Every penny. Just be with me. Maya looked at him for a long moment and realized she felt nothing. No pity. No sympathy. This man was a stranger to her. Darnell, you don't understand, she said quietly. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that you showed who you really are. You crushed me, threw me out like garbage. And I don't want to be with a man who could do that. Never again. But people make mistakes, he begged. I made a mistake. I admit it. But we can start over. No, we can't. Goodbye, Darnell. She closed the door. Behind it she heard banging. Please. Then crying. Keisha looked at her friend with pride. Maya, you did good, she said. I'm proud of you. Maya leaned against the door and closed her eyes. She did the right thing. She knew it with all her heart. A week later, the inheritance paperwork was complete. Maya became the owner of the house in Detroit, the rental property, the bank accounts, and the investment portfolio. Specialists said it was worth more than they first thought, bringing the total value to around $2.2 million. She sat in her new house. Big, bright, with tall ceilings and windows overlooking a garden. And she couldn't believe this was her home now. The furniture was old but good quality. Pictures hung on the walls. Books sat on the shelves. Uncle Raymond had lived a long life here, and in every corner she felt his spirit. Maya got up and walked to the window. The neighborhood was quiet below. Trees swayed in the wind. Children played in a park across the street. She stood here in this house, and for the first time in years felt free. Truly free. She called the medical office and quit her job. She quit the second computer job too. No more working 14 hours a day. No more worrying about every dollar. What are you going to do now? Keisha asked when they met for coffee. I don't know, Maya admitted, stirring her drink. I want to live for myself. Maybe learn something new. I always wanted to learn photography properly. And I want to travel. See the world. You deserve it, Keisha smiled. After everything you've been through. Maya signed up for photography classes. Then cooking classes. She loved to cook as a child, but then life got in the way. Now she had time for everything. She bought clothes she actually liked. Went to salons. Got her hair done beautifully. Gradually, day by day, she returned to herself. To that Maya she had buried under the weight of tiredness and pain. A month later, Aunt Gloria invited her for tea. They sat in the kitchen of the old lady's cozy apartment, and Maya talked about her plans. And I also want to help people, she said. Help women who fell into hard times like I did. Women who were left with nothing. Start a foundation or something. Raymond would approve, Aunt Gloria smiled, pouring tea into cups. He always said money should help people, not just sit in a bank collecting dust. You know, Darnell tried to fight the will, Maya said. I heard. But just like the lawyer said, the judge threw it out. The will was solid. No way to fight it. Maya nodded. She felt no happiness from this news. Just accepted it as a fact. How is he now? She asked, surprised at her own curiosity. Not good, sighed Aunt Gloria. Broke. Homeless. He was renting that apartment you lived in. Now he's staying on Jerome's couch, trying to find a job. But nobody's hiring him. No real work experience, and his attitude is too big for entry-level jobs. I heard he started dating some girl, but she left him fast when she realized he didn't have any money. Maya finished her tea. She didn't feel sorry for Darnell. He got what he deserved. Time passed. Maya went to France. Her first time leaving the country. She stood on a bridge in Paris and cried from happiness, from the beauty, from the fact that she was here, that she was free, that her whole life was ahead of her. She learned photography, and it turned out she had a real talent for it. She opened a small foundation that helped women in difficult situations, paying for lawyers during divorces, helping with housing with job searches. "You've changed," Keisha said as they walked through a botanical garden on a warm fall day. "You look younger." "I feel reborn," admitted Maya. "Like I lived my whole life in a dark room, and now I stepped into the light." And it was true. She glowed. Cut her hair into a beautiful style. Lost weight not from dieting but simply because she stopped eating from stress. She started smiling, laughing, living. And then, 6 months after that day at the law office, something happened. Maya was in a bookstore, the same one where she and Keisha often went. She was looking at travel books, thinking about where to go next. Suddenly the door opened, and Darnell walked in. He saw her right away, froze near the door. She looked up from the book and met his eyes. He had aged, looked thin, lost weight. He was wearing a cheap jacket, faded jeans, messy hair, stubble on his face. Next to him was a girl, young, maybe 22, no more. Bright orange hair. Too much makeup. She was saying something to him in an annoyed tone. "How much longer, Dee? You said you'd take me to a real bookstore with a coffee shop, and you bring me to this little place. Do you even have money?" "I got it, Shanice. I got it," mumbled Darnell, not taking his eyes off Maya. Just a little short right now. Later. Later. Later, later, later," the girl snapped. "All you say is later. If I knew you were broke, I wouldn't have even looked at you." They walked to the register. Darnell tried to buy 2 small notebooks, his hands shaking as he pulled change out of his pockets, counting it. The girl looked at him with disgust. Maya watched this scene without any feeling. Here he was, the man who once laughed at her, called her plain, said she wasn't good enough for him. Now he had become exactly what he thought she was. Nobody. And the girl next to him looked at him exactly the way he looked at Maya 6 months ago. Darnell took the notebooks and turned around. Their eyes met again. He took a step toward her, but Maya looked away and went back to her book. Just continued reading like he wasn't there. "Dee, why are you standing there?" the girl called out. "Let's go." He stood for another second, then turned and followed her out the door. Maya saw in the corner of her eye how they left, how the girl kept complaining, how Darnell walked hunched over, staring at the ground. Maya paid for her travel book, left a tip in the jar, grabbed her bag and walked out of the bookstore. She didn't look back. Didn't approach. Just walked past like you walk past a stranger. It was sunny and warm outside. Perfect weather. Maya stopped on the sidewalk, lifted her face to the sun and smiled. Her phone rang in her pocket. It was Aunt Gloria inviting her to the house. Said the garden needed tending and she could use help. "Of course I'll come," said Maya. "This Saturday." She walked down the street, and for the first time in years, there was no weight in her chest. No fear about tomorrow. No shame. No pain. There was just life. New. Bright. Full of possibilities. And it belonged only to her. She passed a travel agency window and stopped. Photos hung in the display. Rome. Tokyo. Greece. Maya thought for a moment. Maybe it was time to go somewhere else. Japan, maybe. Darnell once said he wanted to go there when he got rich. But he didn't get rich. And she did. She smiled at her reflection in the window. Well, not Japan. Japan could wait. Right now she just wanted to live here in this moment. Enjoy every day. Take photos. Learn. Help people through her foundation. Be herself. And what happened with Darnell? That was already another life. A stranger's life. A past. She closed that door and would never open it again. Never. She took out her phone and texted Keisha. Keisha, let's go out tonight. Maybe that new restaurant on the waterfront. Or the art gallery opening. I'd love to, her friend texted back immediately. You sound especially happy today. Just a good mood, smiled Maya. She put her phone away and walked further down the sunny street. And her chest felt light, bright, like she was floating, not walking. Like the whole world had opened up before her, full of colors and hope. And somewhere behind her, Darnell sat in his friend's car, staring at nothing, cursing the day he decided money was more important than love. And pride was more valuable than being human. But that was no longer her problem. That was his life, his choice, his pain. And she had her own life. Finally her own. And it was beautiful. That evening, Maya stood on the porch of her house with a cup of tea in her hand. Below, the neighborhood was quiet. Somewhere music played softly. People laughed in the distance. She looked at the stars and thought about that old man she barely knew, but who gave her a second life. Thank you, Uncle Raymond, she whispered into the night. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for justice. I won't let you down. I will live this life with dignity. The wind caught her words and carried them somewhere into the darkness. And Maya finished her tea, went back into the house, and went to bed calmly. Without nightmares. Without worry. Just sleep, knowing that tomorrow would be a new day. And it would be a good one. Because now every day was a good one. 'Cause she was free. Finally free. And that was true happiness. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your kind support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I think you'll really enjoy. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect from Jamal's Stories.